Okay, so hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So, as you know, we have been talking about Starship. So, what we're going to talk today is about we are going to talk about part 2. This is part 2 and we're going to talk about Starship size and we're going to talk about Starship size, capabilities and construction. So, with no further ado, let's begin. So what we're going to discuss today? We're going to discuss the size, capability, construction, and a few pieces of hardware. Okay, next, there's sizes. So Starship is massive, like really, really big. Don't get me wrong, Falcon 9 is actually quite a decent sized rocket, and it's really hard to appreciate how big it actually is until you're standing underneath it. But at 9 meter wide compared to Falcon 9's 3.7 meter diameter, the Falcon 9 is narrow enough to be transported cross country by road, but Starship, not so much. Although it does get transported by road, it only does a little bit on the completely closed off highway in Boca Chica, Texas. Next, we'll look at its size. Falcon 9 stands 70 meters tall with its first stage at 45 meters tall, while the second stage and the nose cone, or fairing as we call it, comprise the other 25 meters. Despite being pretty tall, the entire Falcon 9 will be able to fit inside just the Super Heavy booster. The Super Heavy booster will stand over 72 meters tall, likely closer to 75 meters tall. Then put the Starship upper stage on top of the Super Heavy booster, and the entire stack will stand 122 meters tall. That's over 10 meters taller than the monster Saturn V. Yup, that's right. It will be about as tall as a 35-story building. In fact, it will be pretty much exactly as tall as the tallest skyscraper-esque condominiums on nearby South Parday Island, the Sapphire South Parday, which stands 123 meters tall. And once you put Starship on its massive launch mount, it will be the tallest thing for hundreds of miles. Yeah, just wait until that thing takes off. I think it will melt a few brains and possibly break a few windows. I can't wait to see that. Next, we're going to talk about its capabilities. Couple this massive size with their different engines, with different performance figures and different fuels, and what it all means is that Starship can put a lot bigger and heavier things into orbit. The Falcon 9 can take 22,800 kilograms into low Earth orbit when expanded, or 15,600 kilograms when reused, like it does for the Starlink missions. It can send 8,300 kilograms on a geostationary transport orbit when expanded, or about 7,000 kilograms when reused. Now let's drop in Falcon Heavy, which can take between 63,800 kilograms when fully expanded, and about 38,000 kilograms with a 2-core return to launch site landing and 1 core on a drone ship. Falcon Heavy can even get about 25,000 kilograms to geostationary transport orbit when fully expanded, but can still get about 13,000 kilograms when doing the landing and 1 drone ship landing. But Starship will be able to take over 150 kilograms up to low Earth orbit. Yes, that will be more payload mass than any rocket ever made, even beating out the Saturn V, which could put only 145,000 kilograms into low Earth orbit. It will do this while still fully being reusable. Starship can also do a solid 21,000 kilograms onto geostationary transport orbit, despite having to launch its own huge dry mass out there. Yes, this is lower than an expandable Falcon Heavy, but if you expand a Super Heavy booster, it will easily exceed that. And expanding a Super Heavy booster is just simply not in the plans. Don't forget, since the whole rocket is reusable, Starship has to take its heavy flaps, landing gear, the payload fairing, and 6 engines with it everywhere it goes. So instead, here's what Starship can make up for that with orbital refueling. If Starship is refueled with just 1 tanker, it can get that GTO up to 150,000 kilogram mark. And if you refuel enough, it can take 150,000 kilograms all the way to the moon or Mars. That's game changing. Uh, another Another huge upgrade about it, its massive payload weight. The Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy share the same fairing, which is about 5 meters wide and 14 meters tall, with a total usable volume of 145 cubic meters. Although there's an extended version coming soon that is going to be taller, that cubic meters closer to 200 cubic meters, but Starship payload bay is a whopping 9 meters wide and 18 meters high, with a usable volume of around 1,000 cubic meters. Yep, that's more pressurized volume than the 747. And there will be an extended payload version coming soon that is 22 meters in height. One other big change is that these rockets are made out of the Falcon 9 is made out of 2219 aluminum alloy with some carbon composites, while Starship is made out of stainless steel 304L and will eventually be made out of SpaceX in-house developed 30X stainless steel. Aluminium is typically it is typically the lighter one, but only in extremely cold temperature. But the reason for using stainless steel on Starship is because it only not need to handle really low temperature, but it also needs to handle re-entry for both stages. So Falcon 9 actually has some heat shielding on the bottom of the booster that holds all the engine, and this keeps it from the extreme heat of re-entry. Now, move on to the construction. Because of Starship's stainless steel construction, they are hoping not to require any additional heat shielding on the Super Heavy booster, but the upper stage will need to employ additional heat shield ties on its windward side or its belly when it is re-entering from orbital velocity. We'll discuss this a little bit more, but had they gone with another material, it could have required even bigger and heavier heat shields. Originally, SpaceX wanted to use carbon composites for Starship, but maybe one of the biggest reasons they switched to stainless steel is that they could rapidly prototype the vehicle. They can construct, make changes to end on the stainless steel with a simple construction method and cheaply too. Next, we want to first of all, fun fact, it's made inside Texas. Yes, he's not the cowboy, and he is a true Texas man. He does live in Texas, and this is him when 17 years old. But we got some traditional, but more specifically, Boca Chica. Why Boca Chica? Well, here's the thing. Number one is that it is near the equator, because flying near the equator helps the rocket go faster. Why? Well, oversimplified, the Earth spins much faster, the fastest at the equator. Next is close to the beach. Okay, if a rocket explodes on land, and this is what will happen right here. I'm gonna just skip a few parts. Right, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. And then later it is falling down. Can you guys see it? I hope you guys can see it, but it is falling down, and that's what happened. This is the world's most biggest non-nuclear. Yes, it is the world's most biggest non-nuclear explosion. So first thing you're gonna have a. So basically, you're gonna have a Hiroshima bomb explode in a city. Who wants that? So now next, and this is what happens. It explodes inside the water. See, very simple. See, and the third reason is that the land is really cheap there. Next, I'm gonna talk about the ailerons, or what I call them air brakes. Because maybe the most unique bit of hardware are those giant flippy, flappy, funny air brakey things on Starship, or as I call them, ailerons. Yes, there's something entirely new. They are a unique control scheme that will help the vehicle maintain control while they re-enter belly first. These ailerons will basically be powered by some Tesla electric motor with a direct drive. Despite requiring insane amounts of torque geared the right way, that's something an electric motor has plenty of. they'll be powered by Tesla batteries or derived from them at least. And for longer missions, but Starship will have solar panels. We don't have too much information on these yet, but they will eventually work their way on into designs. But this is all just a giant interactive SpaceX making a huge and powerful rocket. But what's it all for? Forget the size of Starship. The economics of this rocket is probably the biggest thing. Now we're not going to get into this since we've talked about this a lot already. So now let's move on to the cost, since that's one of the most revolutionary thing. Alright, the cost. Despite being able to take almost 10 times as much payload into orbit as Falcon 9, Starship should cost less than the Falcon 9 to launch. In fact, because it's fully reusable, it should basically only be the cost of fuel and personnel time. But we're talking potentially way less than the Falcon 9. SpaceX is hoping it will cost less to launch than the Falcon 1. Even, in fact, it will end up being the cheapest ride to orbit, period. In other words, it could be so cheap to launch an entire Starship that you could put just a small CubeSat or a couple of CubeSats or something tiny on it, and it will be cheaper than launching on an Electron rocket or some small sat launchers. Now that's why Starship is truly, really ultra. It's ultra mind-breaking. It's also groundbreaking compared to even the Falcon 9. But in order to fulfill that goal, the SpaceX will have to be reusable fully and rapidly. So just how exactly can it do that? What hardware is different that will make a dream happen? Well, this is what we're gonna do for part 3. So I guess this is the end of part 2. Thank you for listening, and I just want to say please like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and it really helps us, because since my main goal is to spread the words of space to the community. So this is the end of part 2. Stay tuned for part 3.